We do want to bring in Julie Kay, who has been following some of the coverage in terms of how nonprofits are being funded across the city, a specific partnership with the city. We've reported on this before, but the big change here, Julie, is that you were just talking about COVID-era ARPA funding. Sounds like it's going away, and they're not exactly sure how much money they're going to get. So let's just set the scene for us. This was money that was kind of, I guess, set aside during COVID to make sure that these nonprofits were able to still run, right, when everything was shut down.
Yeah, so COVID-era ARPA funds helped all sorts of local municipal governments do whatever they need to do with them. Charlotte used a lot of that for these nonprofit grants. This was already an existing program, the City Partners Program, where they would give grants to nonprofits that specifically aligned with the city's goals. They have, 5 investment areas. One of those is transit, things like that City Council is particularly focused on. Mm-hmm. So this was a thing prior to, but the ARPA funds did help supplement some of this nonprofit help that the city was giving out. And so that is something that we are running into with this round of applications that just opened up a little while ago. Important though, I know applications don't close until December, but the reason I wanted to talk about this week is because on Friday, there is a mandatory information session that is also new for nonprofits this year. So multiple things going on. We are out of ARPA funds, which is kind of outside of the control. A lot of governments are running out of those at this point as we're many years post-COVID pandemic lockdown. Mm-hmm. But also they are trying to have an effort of more transparency in this process. Like I mentioned, they're looking for specific things. It's not just any nonprofit. It can be really all sorts of different ones. Like I talked to the History Museum today. They are receiving grants the last 2 years. And so they are encouraging people to apply, but they just want to make sure people do it in a specific way and understand the process and make sure that they're aligning with the goals. Last year, this is not just a this year push. Last year, they added a more clear guideline for how these nonprofits will be scored, so that's more public. So this is really a larger push from council to add some transparency, especially on top of potentially limited funding.
I got to ask, I guess, if I can do this in layman's terms. So the federal government doesn't have ARPA funding. Is the city thinking about getting this funding from somewhere else or from the federal government? Where are they thinking that they will get this funding back or receive it again?
So there was already funding associated with this program. So it's not all the funding going away.
Got it.
We know that they pull some from the general fund, although this will be impacted by, we had an increase in nonprofit funding for a while that we kind of got comfortable and used to.
Yeah.
And this, not just Charlotte, but multiple cities running out of this kind of supplemented funding to bounce back from COVID. Just because we are kind of past COVID doesn't mean we're not still dealing with the residual effects, as you know.
Right.
As you've reported on as well, we've also got other things going on. Inflation right now. Prices are really high. We've got tariffs. Nonprofits are dealing with other federal, state funding cuts. Yeah. So it's all kind of compounding into just I would imagine they're probably going to get more applications, not just because they're trying to, get the word out, but because nonprofits right now are competing for kind of a small pool of money across the country.
Yeah, I remember reporting on Roof Above. They're a nonprofit that had been funded from the city and doing so much for the unhoused and so many other individuals that needed their services. So I can only imagine. I did see through reading your story as well, the museum needing the funding for a specific exhibit, right? I mean, you can't bring these outer worldly exhibits to Charlotte without money.
Yeah, and that's kind of a really competitive exhibit too. It's something that they were saying, even comparing it to the history museums in Boston or Philadelphia. This is a really high-tech exhibit. I was there as a school bus arrived. I saw some of the kids interacting with what they already have. It's going to be a completely different setup in April when that opens, and that's going to be huge. But what I think was really interesting about that conversation was I didn't even realize that the Charlotte Museum of History does not receive other municipal funding.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't know that. I was shocked by that, and she said, "Yeah, I mean,
it's philanthropic,
it's its own entity, and they have been campaigning for a while to be added to that list of more permanent arts funding.
Right.
And so they're unsure if they're going to apply again for this grant this year because they're really hoping that that pulls through. They've been working with council members in the city to try and get on that list. Yeah. As we know, council has a lot going on right now, and so we'll see if they end up applying. But they did say, this has been a great addition when we are also dealing with funding concerns.
Yeah.
They have not had to cut staff like some other nonprofits have had to,
Yeah.
but I've definitely watched every dollar and where it goes. Something else I wanted to mention about what they like about this program is some of that transparency of when you get funded by the city of Charlotte, you get vetted. And so you know that if I donate to the Charlotte Museum of History, they are using vendors that have been pre-approved. They have been very clear with what's going to what, so you know that the money is going to approved places that you'd want it to go to if you're donating. And so I think that's another piece of this, is she has even acknowledged that the transparency part of this is good. They were of course already doing those things using approved vendors,
right.
But this program is, she acknowledged the transparency in this program and thinks it's a good thing that they're trying to bring more, even if they don't continue to apply for this grant.
Well, and first thing that comes to my mind is the economy, I guess, just because we have so much growth in this area, right? And when you talk about growth, a lot of those individuals usually are coming to this area looking for services, and a big part of that are nonprofits and small businesses, and those two sectors are being squeezed right now. Not only is there a government shutdown going on, but as you pointed out, inflation, the economy in terms of the numbers, the labor statistics, it just does not look good right now. I think I read the other day that 20 out of the 50 states, their economies are either near a recession or in a recession. So has there been any discussion about how this could impact growth long term if they don't have adequate funding for these nonprofits? Has anybody really correlated those two?
Just in my previous reporting, I think that's an interesting, larger question. I've been at a lot of these city council meetings. I was there through many of those budget discussions, and this isn't just a thing at the city level, it's also at the county level, that they are kind of foreseeing the sales tax revenue going down a bit, not getting as much money as normal. People aren't spending a ton of money right now, is really what's happening for all sorts of reasons. You mentioned we're approaching maybe recession in some places, inflation. People in general are just being a bit more frugal, I think, because they don't know what's coming.
Right.
And so that's a piece of it too, is that the city may have less money to work with, the county in particular as well, going forward in the next budget cycle, which will be addressed down the road in May.
Yeah.
We're definitely talking far ahead here.
Well,
but you
that's how it
have
goes,
to,
though. Yeah.
because they have to plan ahead for potentially we might not have as much money as we've had before. Even if the city continues to grow, people might be spending differently than they typically do. So that's a great question. It's definitely one I think people have, and I will just have to see.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to throw it on you. And I know you're thinking about it as well. I have reported on it too. That's kind of why I brought it up. But I think about all the forward momentum that not only Charlotte has, North Carolina in and of itself, and then not to think about all those nonprofits that you've reported on, I've reported on, Samaritan's Purse, who's headquartered in Western North Carolina. I can't imagine what those individuals are going through right now. And so something to be thinking about, and we appreciate your reporting, because this is something that I think that Charlotte knows they're going to need to find funding for something for these individuals to make sure that they can stay afloat.
And when funding goes away for nonprofits, or it's harder to come by, people that rely on nonprofits, particularly ones that provide necessities for people, those people then rely on the city or the county or the state. And so it is just a domino effect. So definitely something to pay attention to.
Right.